Okay, so we understand the customer, who they are. We understand we need to look at a few different types. We might have given them name and described them as personas just to make our communication easier. And then we looked at their different jobs, their different problems, emotions, resource consumptions, and all that. We can put it together in a structured analysis and compare alternatives. So often looks something like this. Here's the stated need. I need a lightweight stroller. Okay. You interview maybe a young parent or a parent with a first kid. Okay, so what actually happens is that they have a need to transport the child. Okay, that's more of a real need. You can carry it, but at some point that is not convenient. And in what situations? That's already interesting to know. And then they have some things. They have some education, experience, friends that tell them things and so on. So they say they need a lightweight stroller. But what else? So that might be the core thing, the transport of the child. Well, it turns out this person has also the concern that whenever the child is in the stroller, it might fall asleep. And when you move it to the car, it might wake up. So they talk about another solution here, car seat included. So it could be a stroller, but it's actually a car seat that you put on wheels and you can just lift it over to the car, not waking the baby. Then we have some social things here on the emotion and feeling side. All my friends have bugaboos, shouldn't look cheap, and things like that. And for some, it's like, I don't want something that looks fancy. So it's also, depends on the customer. You have to identify that. So talk to customers, but don't listen to what they say. Have that separate little thing going around in the back of your head. It's okay, they're talking about the problem here, but actually I want also to know why that problem occurs and in what situations. And now they said something about the thing they think will solve the problem, but they don't know what we can do. So let's dig a little bit deeper in why do they suggest that? That's really interesting to know. Maybe it's not just about the problem, it's also about beliefs that they have about different options, which might be correct or incorrect. And if either case, we can work on that and include that in our decision making. We collect a lot of information, so this might be many interviews with post-its and representing different parts that we can apply, problems we can attack. The resell also might come into the denominator and how we can work with resource consumption for them. So maybe they have to pay a bit, but they can get it back. That's one way to reduce the total, at least consumption of resources a little bit. For making a stroller, maybe you have 50 different jobs. And of those 50, there's of course 2 or 3 key ones. Really, if you don't solve this, you don't need a stroller. Maybe 10 that will matter a lot. There needs to be a handle. Okay, there will be a handle. Maybe you can tweak a little bit on that, but there are some other things that really has a big importance. That will also vary among customer groups, but at least you find it out with real evidence. But when you talk to customers, you can only get some information. So first of all, as we saw before, they want a lightweight stroller. They will say lots of things that are not about needs. So we need to work their answers and ask follow-up questions so we get to need insight. And that's one thing. But then there are some things they will not be aware of at all. And this is a model called the Kano model. And it puts features in 3 different categories. And we can say they put needs in 3 different categories. So one thing is the basic features. That's things that are taken for granted. So if you talk about the stroller, they might not say that they want wheels, maybe a harness, so the kid cannot fall out, cover for rain, bad weather. It's just natural for them to be automatically included in the category, so they don't even think about mentioning it. And this could be strange, especially if you're not yourself a user, then you might miss things here. So that would be basic things. They have to be met just to be selling the product or service. If they're not, it reduces value dramatically. So it will be just a huge annoyance. You might not be able to sell it. It's like a hygiene standard or a hygiene requirement that actually you have a harness. You can put a harness on the stroller or some sort of way to secure the child. Otherwise, nobody can buy it because they don't want to have it. Now, we also have what's called performance needs, and that's usually more is better. So if we take that bike, the Novus electric motorcycle, longer range is better. Lighter weight is better. So it's a clear aspect that customers are highly aware of, and they use it to compare products themselves. And those who sell it might use it in the brochure and say, oh, this has this range, and then it's fast to recharge, and then you can also carry it because it weighs less and so on. So that's the information that they will tell you about. How do you select a car? Oh, I look at size of the trunk and range and this and that. They're very aware of it, and they will tell you. And they will also usually want to have a good combination for almost no money. But it's the current well-known parameters for competing. Performance needs. So, of course, you can increase performance on those. You deliver on the basic ones just to be in the game at all. And then you have what's called delighters. That's pleasant surprises that they don't expect. So, very highly valued. If you have this bike, maybe it recognizes your driving patterns and your habits and who you are and adapt something. Put the better settings in automatically. And when someone else takes the bike, it could say, oh, you seem to be a new user. I suggest that you use these settings. Right? So it's maybe customizing things. One example is you get to a hotel and you get stationery and pens and papers and a robe that has your name on it. That'd be like, oh, and you get to keep it. So that will make you delighted. And when you get delighted, you tell maybe 5 of your friends, this was a great hotel, what a great experience. But if you come to the hotel and they don't have hot and cold water, you'll be very frustrated. And you tell 25 friends. So people tell more about the disappointments than their delights. But these delighters are contributing disproportionately to satisfaction. Problem is, only performance needs are spoken. These you can get from interviewing customers. Surprises you can never get from customers, because if they know about what would surprise them, it would not be a surprise. But you can look at what cool things are happening in other service area, get inspiration from something else and put that into this category, and it didn't exist there before. And then the basic things they will also not tell you. But you can look here is a little bit better, because you can look at complaints and reclamations and, returned orders and so on. So what is the history of customer support issues? That will give you an indication of their expected performance on some basic things, because they will complain if they don't get satisfied. To wrap up, we looked at information. If we just get information, it might just as well lead us wrong as guide us right, because we need to understand what the information it is and where we should apply it in our process of solving problems and take decisions in product development. It has to be put into the right place for innovation. And we also understand that information just collected is not very useful. We need to know what kind of user and customer it's from, and that those different customers might be actually the right ones to attack and to propose things to. Then we need their information to do the right package and the right choices. Otherwise, we'll have a tube sock or a Christmas tree, and nobody will pay us a good margin for that. Then we moved on to break down then what is actually creating value once you identify the customer. And, we can work on creating results for them and performing jobs. They hire a product to perform a job, right? That's the kind of expression that Clayton Christensen and those use, other authors also. But we can also solve problems, and we can also engender feelings. And combined use of these makes a stronger value proposition. And remove, of course, everything that reduces value. The time that we take from them, the money it costs, and the effort they have to put in. So customization often reduces effort, for example, talking about customization, tailor-making the product and service. It often reduces effort for the user because it's already adapted to them a little bit more than it would have been. And that attacks then the denominator in the value equation and makes it smaller. Customization can also solve the problem slightly better or reach a little bit higher on the job performance for this customer. And getting that information is a bit of a hassle. You have to go deep, and sometimes you have to go to sources that are not directly fed from the customer themselves, because they will not be able to tell you about certain things. And sometimes they tell you about things, but you have to translate it to the domains correctly.